Lakshmi, you're on.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahi Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvannutibhis Siddhasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinevati Dhinamavitriyavatu Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Atrinatva Krime Hanme Kanvena Jamadagnina Vishwavasor Brahmana Hataha Krimenagum Raja Apyeshaghastapatir Hataha Atho Mata Atho Pita Atho Osthura Atho Kshudra Atho Krishna Atho Shveta Atho Ashatika Hataha Shvetabhis Saha Sarve Hataha Aharavadya Shritasya Havisho Yatha Tat Satyam Yadamuyamasya Jambhayo Adadhami Tatha Hitat Khan Mrasi Om Shanti 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 Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahi Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Namastu Nityam Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O germ, I kill you with this mantra revealed by Rishis Atri, Kanva and Jamadagni. Through this mantra, the leader of the germs, a Gandharva, is killed by Vishwasu. The rest of the leaders of the germ clan will also be similarly killed. The mother and father of the germs are destroyed. All types of germs, whether big or small, black or white, are also killed. The germs lying within the bodies of animals like cows and horses are killed. We offer havis during homas at the Yagashala for our protection. Likewise, this mantra keeps all our germ enemies stuck within Yama's teeth. The crushing sound of them being killed in his mouth can be heard. Om, peace, peace, peace. Samasta loka sukhino bhavantu. May there be peace and harmony within us. May there be peace and harmony around us. May there be peace and harmony in the universe.
Hi, good morning, good evening, and good night to all of you. This topic, haiku for healing, started as a vague idea after I spoke at the British, something similar at the British Haiku Society spring gathering at the beginning of this month. And I felt I could and should try out something similar in Triveni. As expected, our members showed overwhelming response And I thank the 30 participants and our 52 cheerleaders for joining us today. I want to go back when I was a teenager. I was a Veena student, and Veena is an instrument that is as old as the Vedas, and it is made out of jackfruit, and which is a heavy wood. But the resonance is supposed to be good. And we had a function in our house, and my mother said, Kala, why don't you play something? But they didn't. In my aunt's house, there was no veena, so I had to go to the neighbor's house to get the veena. She said, be careful, and she gave me the veena. I brought it, I played, and later I went back to return it after the function. I was in full skirts. You know, in Chennai, we all wear full skirts and till the anklet, and it was the first floor, and I was carrying the veena, and as expected, the material, the skirt tripped, and I fell. The first thing I heard was that the veena was broken. The lady came out running, and she just lifted, and she said, how are you? And I said, I think your veena is broken. We carried the broken veena inside, and she kept telling me 100 times, don't worry. When the veena is broken and it's mended, the nad or the anunad, we say, the resonance is much better. So you don't have to worry at all, she said. But I was very perturbed, and she said, it'll be much better, and I wouldn't have broken it myself. Thanks that you did it, and now I can get it repaired. That was so many years back, and I came in Haikai, and the Japanese have an aesthetic nuance called the kintsugi. I don't know whether I'm saying the word properly, doing my best. Kintsugi basically aims at mending the broken parts, but also making it more beautiful. Kin means golden, and tsugi means joinery or repair. All things are created and destined to be broken someday. That's never a bad thing. All of us develop scars throughout our lives. Instead of covering up the faults, kintsugi beautifies the breakage. The joined lines highlight the fracture. The restored ceramic becomes a symbol of fragility, strength, and beauty. Many see kintsugi as a metaphor for life where nothing is ever truly broken because it can get healed. In the last 20 days, as I began gathering the haiku sent by each poet for this event, I found 3 distinct facets to this concept: haiku for healing. The first, the act of writing haiku in itself is healing. We forget our troubles as we become one with the process of writing. I have a beautiful haiku by Lipu. We sit together, the mountain and I. We sit together, the mountain and I, until only the mountain remains. And also remember, when we give birth to something new, there is an enormous amount of energy, which can be called enthusiasm, which of course heals us from within. Second, there comes a moment when pain or any such strong emotional experience makes us write haiku, and how it releases our pent-up feelings is obvious. And here the healing begins as we bounce back into our normal lives. A haiku by Max Verhart, which is one of my favorites, my all-time favorite, Falling Apple. The branch sweeps, falling apple. The branch sweeps into a new balance. Falling apple, the branch sweeps into a new balance. The third, when we see outrageous acts, too many to enumerate here, not always are we in a position to fight it out. Writing haiku and sharing it is our way of telling the world we are not agreeing to what is being done. In many cases, it's all about how the victim succumbs to the act. And writing haiku is lending a voice to that internal fight in that lone figure, like adding one more vote. I'd like to read Indranil's Mekala's haiku, which is just beautiful. Starving refugee. Starving refugee. Her hand approaches her mouth. Starving refugee. A hand approaches her mouth with a microphone. Before that, I've come to the end of my welcome speech and a welcome to everyone. I just have one request for all our cheerleaders. You've already started doing it. Please send your responses on chat. We'd love to hear them. Ravi, over to you.
Thank you, Kala. Just a quick one for all our participants. Thank you so much for coming. The program today would have about 30 hygiene sharing their haiku and haibun. We have also structured for 3 breaks in between. So we have 8 poets going first, and then we have the first breakout room. And then we have 8 more, and then a coffee break during which we hear Sherry Grant's classical music live, and then 8 more poets go before the second breakout room. And finally, the last 6 poets would go online. And then at the end, we have Scott giving us his thoughts. So please hang on. I'm looking forward to Scott's talk. Also, continue to stay muted all through the presentation until your turn comes, when I will request, when I read out your name. Don't start when you see your name on the screen, but wait for me to replace the spotlight onto you, and then I will call out your name, and then you could start your this thing. And for the poets, the 30 poets who are presenting, as has already been shared with you in an email, I would be doing this slide transition. So when you want the next slide to shift, all you need to do is just raise this. And if I have still not changed the slide, then this can become this, and then I will definitely jump into action. Right, so with these few words, let me go on to sharing the screen. Here we are. Akila, over to you.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back for another virtual conference. And Kala, as her name suggests, just keeps dishing out these ideas and events, and you just can't refuse her. There is no for Kala, right? Like there is no for art. And art is healing us during these times. It's a year, and I don't know how long this entire pandemic is going to go. But yes, as Kala said in her introductory speech, what more than to engage ourselves with our own writing? And at the end of it, the piece that comes out is like a baby. And that's that lease of fresh life or hope that we're looking out for now. So I would like to read a few of my haiku and a tanka, which were written during this time. And they have been written not in any particular order, just as it came, as always we write, as is the writing process. But yes, there is always hope. And I hope that you also share that hope with me. So lockdown routine. She asks me what day it is. Lockdown routine. She asks me what day it is. Isolation. finding synonyms for solitude. Isolation, finding synonyms for solitude. Solitude, all that noise between birth and death. Solitude, all that noise between birth and death. Online classes, my dog also learns to mute. Online classes, my dog also learns to mute. Online shopping, all my teas in her wardrobe. Online shopping, all my teas in her wardrobe. Indoors, the longest braid plays Rapunzel. Indoors, the longest braid plays Rapunzel. Morning yoga, learning to say, I am fine today. Morning yoga, learning to say, I am fine today. Prayer bells, wishing a bit less of what was and a bit more of the gibbous moon. Prayer bells, wishing a bit less of what was and a bit more of the gibbous moon. Reunion, the bamboo grove bursts with babblers, and I hope we all get to reunite one day in the physical world. And at that time, I hope the bamboo grove will burst with us. So reunion, the bamboo grove bursts with babblers. Thank you. My fingers aren't up. They're all down.
Gurpreet Datta.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Kala ma'am and everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. Thundering sky, how my sleep awaits, Granny's lullaby. Thundering sky, how my sleep awaits, Granny's lullaby. Kala ma'am, this was when I got married. Rings exchange, his hands a bit cold. Rings exchange, his hands a bit cold. Mumbai rain, my finger traces his name. Mumbai rain, my finger traces his name. If tight, the stillness in his portrait. If tight, the stillness in his portrait. Tokte cyclone, his only net and hut swept along. Tokte cyclone, his only net and hut swept along. Thank you, Kala ma'am, for always correcting me.
Thank you. Beautiful. Haiku as a healing form is quite interesting. By nature, I think that all poetry is healing, but haiku is still that little bit special. Its very form is designed for contemplation. This is why we write haiku, in order to contemplate a very short poem and then think more deeply about it. Another thing is that we describe everything very concrete in haiku, and sometimes by saying things the way they are, we also gain insights in a different way from when it's described in a more contrived or elaborate way. And the third thing about haiku that makes it healing haiku is that favorite Zen saying of mine. If you, when the self retreats, 10,000 things emerge. And this is also what we do as a way of healing, that when we start looking into ourselves and into our own problems and into our own thoughts and look outside instead, we see all of those other images that we so beautifully can describe in haiku. I work all over the world with haiku. I judge competitions with people from all sorts of countries. I work in schools with haiku in Sweden and Scandinavia. And I often get a question, which is, well, it must be very different how people write haiku. And the curious thing is that it is not. It is actually very similar how we describe things through haiku, no matter where in the world we are. And that to me is very healing, that we do have as people this common bond that makes us so same. I have 4 different poems that I will read to you. Some of them are soothing, some of them are written to bring comfort to dark times. Others are more about just doing that thing of describing the things the way they are. Ominous clouds, the sky still bright on the horizon. Ominous clouds, the sky still bright on the horizon. Tunnel vision, on the other side, life goes on. Tunnel vision, on the other side, life goes on. Open field, the sound of wild geese returning. Open field, the sound of wild geese returning. Days blur into one another, self-isolation. Days blur into one another, self-isolation. Days blur into one another, self-isolation. Thank you.
Lakshmi.
Good evening, everyone. It's really a great honor to share this platform with so many senior poets whom I look up to. And for this, a million thanks to you, Kala. Without much to say on COVID, I just wanted to convey that the old and the aged at home or back home, they don't want to listen to our advices and suggestions. They just want our presence to be felt. And they just want us to listen to their unending tales. I personally experienced this loneliness and fear of my mother during conversations. But today I can proudly say that she has come above all. Thank you so much, Ma, for this understanding. 365 days. She starts her conversation feeling so bored, this loneliness. I understand this would be with me forever, but at times I get scared. If anything happens to me, who will inform you? These words sum up our daily conversations. Somehow in the beginning, I wouldn't encourage mother to converse daily, but with this pandemic glooming in, I realized, what will I lose if I chat with her over the phone with words of comfort, joy, humor, laughter, and sorrow? Am I not going to trot the same path one day? What started with a casual phone call has become a routine every evening after 6. The days, all the months. So today I finished talking with her just before this program started. Folding again, a perfect origami crane, a takeoff. Folding again, a perfect origami crane, a takeoff. In quarantine, with nobody in the front, I learned to stay with the orchestra by the backyard birds. In quarantine, with nobody in the front, I learned to stay with the orchestra by the backyard birds. Learning best how to write a haiku, I juxtapose my memories with the moon. Learning best how to write a haiku, I juxtapose my memories with the full moon. The dots and lines crisscross each other in my threshold. The dots and lines crisscross each other in my threshold. Millions of stars in the night sky drawing my galaxy. In my threshold, millions of stars in the night sky drawing my galaxy. Thank you.
Smita.
Good evening. Special thanks to Kala, Ravi, and greetings to everyone here. I'm very happy to be reading at Haiku for Healing with Triveni. This topic is very close to my heart as I believe deeply in the transcendental, almost magical powers of poetry to heal and transform. Focusing on haiku as a healing poetic form is an extension of this belief. Haiku demands of the Haijin an acute awareness of the present moment, the only dimension of time of any relevance to its creation. The present is said to be like electricity in that it is instant, continuous, multiple, and simultaneous, as described beautifully by the American minimalist poet Aaron Saroyam in his note on one-word poems. Building on this, I would like to say that while engaging with haiku, we enter into the present within its flow of continuous observation, acutely aware of the natural elements that enliven it. This identification and awareness of the surroundings and nature creates bonds, connections that lead away from feelings of isolation and negativity towards a space of appreciation. I'll be presenting some haiku and tanka. Birds on trees, flapping their wet wings, I begin to hum. Birds on trees, flapping their wet wings, I begin to hum. Images connect so much with so little. A tiny raft sailing on turbulent seas. Three flying parrots soon perch on a cable, joining dots in peace. Three flying parrots soon perch on a cable, joining dots in peace. Now, the sky sways with the breeze, a sense of wonder in the one who sees. Often, words and images are drawn together. How the moon exerts power over surging seas. Thank you very much.
Good
Muskan
evening,
Ahuja.
everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Before reading my poems, I want to talk a bit about writing. I strongly believe that writing is a therapy, and writing Japanese poems like haiku, senryu, tanka is very creative, intense, and is a healing process. And I also want to emphasize here that one of the most amazing and best poems come out when we sit with our emptiness. I believe that we should not be so quick to fill that emptiness. We should have the courage to sit with it so that we can actually feel what we feel and truly express ourselves onto the blank paper. Now, coming to the theme of today's event, Haiku for Healing, I have written 3 poems based on that. I'll be reading the first one. Falling leaf. The wind directs where it is meant to be. Falling leaf. The wind directs where it is meant to be. Now, this is a haiku with a very strong vertical axis. We all have seen a leaf falling down, going with the wind and settling at some place. Similar is the case with human life. When life throws a wrench into our lives, when we lose someone close to our heart, or feel sad or hurt due to some reason, we feel shattered, we feel heartbroken, and we are like that, a falling leaf. We do not know what to do, how to distract our mind, but sooner or later, with the passage of time, we realize that we are flowing with the time. Our life, the wheels of time, the wind teaches us that what is in the way is the way. What is in the way is the way. The pain, the change that we go through is actually helping us to grow. Everything in our world may appear topsy-turvy, but the life is always moving in the right direction, showing us the right path, taking us to where we truly belong, and eventually settles us at the right place, in the right and best position we are meant to be in. Now I'll be reading my second poem. Sooner than I realize, the white edges of arum lily have crisped and curled. Sooner than I realize, the white edges of arum lily have crisped and curled. Now, we all must have bought some fresh flowers for our house, right? And after a few hours, when we happened to look at them, we did not feel good to see them drooping, having lost the fragrance, the freshness, the liveliness that they contained. So, in a metaphorical sense, this poem talks about the passing of time. It is about our own lifetime coming to an end. We can relate this with ourselves or say with our own people, our acquaintances who had a close brush with death due to COVID or some other mishappening in life. And it is a human mind that doesn't want to believe that our time to go has arrived and that we feel that it is too soon. A lot of impending work is there, a lot to say to our dear ones, a lot of memories left to cherish one more time, a lot to fulfill, a lot to achieve, but we can't. We can't do anything. And just like the edges of arum lily, our life too has crisped and curled, it has withered, and yet we feel that it is too soon to leave now. It is so unfair to us. Now, the last poem that I'll be reading, it is based on death. Funeral service, her off-white sari, so crisp. Funeral service, her off-white sari, so crisp. That's it. Thank you for your attention.
Firdaus Parvez.
Hi, hello everybody. I really, I thought Muskan said a very poignant thing about when it is dark times, you kind of get the best writing done there. I feel that. My haikai journey has been very recent. In the middle of the first lockdown, I started learning to write this form, and I'm a free verse writer. So what I write actually is what comes from within me, my anxiety, my love, my whatever feelings, and I put it on paper. But when I started writing haiku, I noticed that it was something I took from outside, and it came inside to touch something inside me. So that was very different. And now it's helped my other writing as well, my free verse as well. And that is, I'm really grateful for that. So on 21st April, I fell ill. I got this dreaded virus, and I wasn't so afraid of myself. I was afraid of my in-laws who live with me, and they're over 80. And I was so scared that I was going to give it to them. So I isolated myself. I was locked in one room, and I was just with my dog. And it was horrible because I was thinking I'm going to die, because everyone was dying around me. I was just hearing people, this one died or this one died, people I knew. And it was horrible at that time. That was the peak time of COVID in India, the second wave. It was horrible. I couldn't sleep because I thought I'm going to die in my sleep, or I won't get oxygen. I was constantly checking my oxygen levels with the oximeter and checking my temperature, and it was horrible. But at that time, I think in those 10 days, which I was really ill, I was writing the most, because it was National Poetry Month, April. So I was following a prompt and I was writing. And I wrote a lot of haiku then, and tanka and haibun. And not about sickness or anything, just something. It was more like desk haikus, because I couldn't go outside. But from my window, I could sometimes see the sky if I'm lying on my bed. So this is a haibun I wrote later on, what I had experienced there. So quarantine. Tired of resting all day, I crouch beside my dog to get close to the earth. Then I look for a haiku. Moonless night, only the white glow of an oximeter. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Vandana here. I'm so glad to be part of this healing experience. Haiku came into my life when I was in probably the worst phase of my life. I had lost my father. I had to leave my job because of health issues. On top of it, we were posted at a place where within 2 months of our shifting, there was a terrorist attack on my daughter's school, which was thankfully thwarted by army. But one of her classmates' father was martyred. She was too small. She was in 3rd grade. She was too small to understand what happened. But it made me live in constant fear and anxiety. Kala, if you remember, you included one of my coup, which was based on this incident in Nad Anunad in Muse, India. Chilly morning, Dad comes back wrapped in tricolor. At that time in my life, I wanted an outlet. And through Rohan, haiku came into my life as a rescue. What started as a hobby soon became a passion. It was like I found a voice without speaking. I was never much of a talker, but I gladly let haiku take over the task of expressing. As my daughters grew, my haiku became more women-centric. I became more critical of the gender bias and more anxious about their safety. I hate how women don't feel safe even in public places, how society is always so critical and judgmental of every choice they make. I don't want my daughters to grow in such society. And I feel that we need to speak and stand up for their sake. I had read a quote by Natalie Goldberg, which gave the strength to write more and more. And it was like, write what disturbs you, what you fear, what you have not been willing to speak about. Be willing to split open. And that's what I did when I wrote. Cancelled engagement. Was I wrong in asking to keep my maiden name? Torn burqa. They say the girls in skirts ask for it. Reincarnation. How many us want to be women again? Like Ravi one day said that I unleash my famous Punjabi ire in my haiku. But that's not always the case. I do let go sometimes. Bird song. I let the voice inside me go unheard. The last 2 years have been very, very difficult for everyone. But somehow we have managed to keep our sanity just because we can channelize all our emotions in the form of haiku. These small power-packed poems are actually chota packet bada dhamaka. All I can say is that I'm not the person I was when I had started. New me, adding 2 more dots to the full stop. These years of haiku writing have not only healed me, but have pulled me out of my midlife crisis and restored my dimming confidence. New Year resolution. What if I'm the best version of me? Thank you.
It went off so well. Thank you, all of you. Yes, Ravi.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being so wonderful. Had a wonderful session so far. Now it's time for breakout rooms. So what would happen is I would put you all into 10 different breakout rooms. You'll get a pop-up on your screen. So you just need to click accept. We would get into that. It would be about 12 minutes of breakout session we would have. And at the end of it, I would close the breakout session and we would all come back into the same room. So request your patience. Give me a couple of minutes as I do that. I'm now going to put you all into breakout rooms. So just give me a few minutes. Srinivas.
Yeah. Thank you, Ravi and Kala, for bringing the haiku community together again. Hope everyone is doing good. I know it's a difficult time we are all living in. The God has taken away a lot of dear ones. Gen, I don't know whether we can call Gen healing or not. What I started trying to do is to find happiness with whatever God left to me rather than what has taken away from me. I know it's painful, but that's what it is. And I started reading Gita more and more now. It gives me some solace, Bhagavad Gita. And also I started reading more and more haiku. And also Viktor Frankl, I think many of you heard about him. I remind myself of what he said. You know, Viktor Frankl was captured by Nazi troop, put in concentration camp, subjected to barbaric torture. But every torture, he retained a smile. So at the end of, when he was released, people questioned him, how could you be so happy when you were given this torture? And remember what he said, pleasure or pain is a state of mind. That's what I'm trying to do, but it's easier said than done. Because I'm a human being, ordinary human being. And sometimes none of these techniques work. I break down and resort to the final technique which relieves me, that is crying. The tears wash away the pain. There is nothing else better than tears to wash away the pain. But still, though it's not once or twice, it happens very often. but still those moments are cherishable because they give you enough material to write poems. So most of the poems what I write on melancholy, because of that is by self-experience. Autumn morning, yesterday's leftovers in the garbage truck. Autumn morning, yesterday's leftovers in the garbage truck. We are living in such a world, we are not allowed to touch our beloved ones in their final journey. We are human beings minus humanity. The next poem what I wrote is, let's learn from animals what is humanity. It's a tanka. Mahout's funeral, 4 or 5, watch the elephant uncovering the face. Mahout's funeral, 4 or 5, watch the elephant uncovering the face. It's based on, it's a part fiction and part reality. I read a news article in one of the states of India, Kerala. An elephant, I don't know how it came to know that its trainer, who was a trainer for the elephant for many years, he died. I don't know how it came to know, but it ran 20 kilometers to see him. People will not do that, but elephant will get. Let's learn from it. And I purposefully, second line, I purposefully put 4 or 5 because I don't care. The people who are afraid of touching that body, I'm more interested about elephant. That's why I put 4 or 5. This is for a change. Everybody read melancholy poem, so this is a fun poem. Cherry blossoms, the young woman slips her mask again. Cherry blossoms, the young woman slips her mask again. This is for teenage boys. When you go to watch cherry blossoms, watch cherry blossoms, and remember there are some other cherry blossoms who need your attention. New moon day. She asked me, what if she is not there? New moon day, she asked me, what if she is not there? One day my wife asked me, what if she is not there? For a fun, I gave a different reason, but this I wrote to myself. Answer comes in the first line. Every day is a new moon day without light. And if that becomes a reality, I have an answer in the last poem. I don't know whether it is a Sanyu qualified for a Sanyu or not, but this is what I felt at heart. Still alive, your struggle for gasping in my breath. Still alive, your struggle for gasping in my breath. There is a long pause after first line. That's what I give, still alive. I read a poem when I was in college. It was in local language, Telugu. That has a great impact on my life. I still remember 3-line small poem. It's difficult to create that in English, but I'll try. An eye opens to birth, an eye closes to death. The life is but the length of a blink. I lost some of the meaning in translation, but I'll read in Telugu. I don't know. I know you cannot understand for my satisfaction. Kannu teriste jananam, kannu muste maranam, reppapata ee jeevitam. Thank you very much.
Sonal.
Hi, everyone.
You're muted, Sonal.
Hi, everyone. So to talk about healing through haiku, I feel the only way to deal with pain or grief is really through it. We have to go through it and come out the other side, feel it, reel in it, and really go through each wave of pain over and over if required. That does not really go to say that it's really ever simple or any two people experience it the same way. So this is where poetry comes in to me, and haiku being such a succinct and poignant form, it takes you a step closer in fully feeling these waves of pain and leaves you feeling that much lighter. So of course, like many of you, I've seen my close friends lose people. I've lost my grandfather, not to COVID, but a huge loss. And we lost our second fur baby, and it kind of left us shattered. If it wasn't for haiku, I really don't think I would have made it. So the pain is that deep. It's like an abyss, basically. So more than the happy times, I feel in times of strife is when really haiku has been a savior for me. And I cannot thank Kala enough for kind of bringing me to this, basically. So be it that I'm crying for myself or for someone I love, when nothing makes me feel whole or happy, I turn to writing, haiku, tanka, haibun, and something shifts, however slightly, but something shifts and allows me to basically cope with the next day. It gives me strength. It allows basically acceptance to set in and allows free expression. And that's where, the healing process begins to me, where the light enters through the broken parts and through the cracks. And at times, haiku also reminds me to notice those little joys that otherwise we tend not to notice. So with that, I will go ahead and read a few of my poems. The one dot connecting us all, final departure.
Okay, no problem.
Bringing out my Ouija board again, Mother's Day. Bringing out my Ouija board again, Mother's Day.
Just give me a minute, Sonal.
Sure. In my lap, 4 paws and a tail, I hold still. Did I already know it would be the first and last? Wuthering winds, the days keep turning into night. Summer breeze, I wake up shivering to the illusion of you. She keeps seeing him walk through the door, wishing well. Languishing through deserted streets, I pray for respite. Still nowhere in sight, the rainbow bridge. Washing off the stench of 2020, tidal wave. Midsummer rain, my tween asks for a lullaby. Blood moon eclipse, with each sip I sink deeper into me. Thank you.
Radhamani madam, kindly unmute yourself and start. Thank you. Madam, you're muted. Kindly unmute yourself. Yes, that's fine.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Kala. Good evening, Ravi sir. Good evening, all the participants. Kala, Ravikran, thank you so much for having given me this profound opportunity to recite a few of my haiku. We have haiku for prayer, haiku for mountains, climbing, childhood memories, but haiku for healing. Today's topic is really well aligned, in tune with the order of the day. We need some kind of healing for some reason or the other, because the contemporary scenario is such that you can't be alone all the time. We are living in a society where mutual understanding, mutual consolation, mutual solace is always required. That way, the subject chosen by Kala is really amazing, remarkable. Now, this haiku is all about hunger. Chill penury flows the genial current of the age. That was the great Bart's quotation long back. We all have learned that out penury flows the genial current of the age. But still something worse is that hunger. A small belly, handful of rice is only essential need of the hour. So when a man is hungry, our first duty should be to go and feed him. What's the use of having money without mind? Bereft of mind, money is not at all required. So this haiku contemplates on the idea that little bit of rice, the timely succor would always take us a long way. Handful of rice for the hungered looks her bliss into notes. It's not for the hungered belly, for the hungered looks, the craving looks. For that, just a handful of rice is a minimum basic thing is required, but that is large enough. The small is big enough. Her bliss into notes. That is the content of the haiku for today. Handful of rice for the hungered looks her bliss into notes. Now next is Haiga. Anything can be a picture. Any picture can be any viable picture as long as it's pretty decent and good and thought provoking is good for Haiga. But I mean, a moment where you can share the sufferings of others, that should be the motto of Haiga as far as I am concerned for today, these days, meeting. Celebration can be everybody's joy, but to partake of the suffering is sometimes which should come from the bottom of your heart. His Haiga, he is one volunteer of pallbearers. He wanted to write a Haiga, and he was searching for many topics. But then he thought that why not I choose my topic as one of the pallbearers to partake of the sufferings. That moment, sharing the grief, that is something that requires a broad mind. Actually, he is one volunteer of pallbearers. That is the picture for Haiga for the day of the spoken persona here. Next is a Thanka. See, failure is a stepping stone to success. All of us are born. Of course, one time or the other, we'll have to meet failure. As parents, no, we just ask for children, go. Time for the exam. Hurry up. You should be the first in the class, top in the class. But then, how failures also could take the child to the top. In city, they have come across many tutorial institutions mainly for failed candidates. Not that to demean the person, not that to demean or to speak ill about the failed candidate, but to pep up. It's a kind of a helping hand. That way, a priest gives a consolation. A priest who has failed, he gives a consolation to a child who has failed, and that has pulled up his life. That has pulled up the other person's life also. It's not that one fine day evening he became all around a priest suddenly. So years of struggle, years of failure has brought him to that high level. Day of results, disappointed to know his missing number, with consolation by priest, how he failed 4 times same class. Here is the clap came from the priest. Here is the consolation from the priest came. My dear son, I too was like you. I failed. So be cheerful, be glad, go up. With consolation by priest, how he failed 4 times, same class. Imagine, 1 time is good enough for beating for the mother, for the father, but 4 times. So that kind of cheer paper came from the priest. So that is how this tanka is owned. Thank you for this opportunity given to me.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Go, Shreya.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. I hope you're all good and safe and in health amidst this pandemic. So when I received Kalamam's invitation, I absolutely had no idea what I was going to say about haiku being a healer, because I don't know how to put it into words. And frankly speaking, I didn't even write that much during entire this pandemic, because it was just a matter of 5 hours that I was attending my college and I was told to pack up my things and go back home suddenly. So, but for haiku, I can say that I've learned so much, and literally so much, that it was actually a moment of realization that brought me back from those dark hours that I was actually living in during this pandemic to being someone actually productive. I remember I was in Panchkula at my grandmother's place, and I was reading her century of mine. And then she suddenly asked me that, Shra, there's this break at the end of your line, there's this space. Don't you think that you should remove it? And I explained to her how Ma was really important in haiku, how it was needed, and how it actually added to the beauty of it. It was that moment that I realized I also needed my space. I also needed my space to get out of all the negativity that I was experiencing, because I had thrown myself into academic commitments and internships and whatnot, just to stop thinking about what was happening around in the world. So this first poem, it is actually a tanka that I wrote in the first few months of the pandemic. Afraid to die as I was before. I carry a fear now of not living at all. Afraid to die as I was before. I carry a fear now of not living at all. This particular haiku is actually something that I experienced during pandemic, because I live at a place which is on border of Rajasthan and Punjab. So we don't as such experience monsoon as does the entire country. And it was the first time last year when we were experiencing monsoon at the fullest, and still we could not enjoy it. Paper boats. The first train washes away my stale bucket list. Paper boats. First train washes away my stale bucket list. But there were moments when I would get out of this, what should I call it, the dark hours, and I would go out, stand on the patio of my house and look around the little isolated islands that were in my society instead of it being an actual society. And I would realize that it somehow had to end one day. And then I would try new things in haiku, and I would try writing new forms. I also tried hoku, but I'd rather not share it. It's not that good. So this is a gembun, my first gembun actually that I tried. The longer you see, the more blurry the horizon gets. End of war. Another day spent on the porch stairs. The longer you see, the more blurry the horizon gets. End of war. Another day spent on the porch stairs. And this last tanka was actually written in the second wave when I was talking to a friend slash colleague of mine, and how a family member of hers was actually serious and critical. And I wrote this one for her. In between those folded hands, echoing prayers, trading her best stall for world peace. In between those folded hands, echoing prayers, trading her best stall for world peace. Thank you so much.
Devashruti Monda.
Good evening everyone. Yes, haiku leads to healing. How? Let's meet Haigra, and with her life journey, it will be clear that how haiku heals. Haigra, a beautiful butterfly. Her roller coaster ride in my garden was going very well. With all her duties and the only love of her life, she was doing very well. Since her transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly, she had always been with him, her love. But as time passed, something went missing. They weren't like they used to be before. Things were not that same that it used to be. Haigra was unhappy and she was pained because of that distance it was created. And one of her leaves shared her pain. Cumin seeds on a sizzling pan. You and me. Cumin seeds on a sizzling pan. You and me. Just as an unfed part of the body, one can't live with that. Similarly, one cannot go far with ailing relationships. Haigra's connection with him couldn't last long, and on, on one not so bright day, he walked out of it. And he asked her also to do the same. She turned into herself quietly. Break up. A hibiscus falls next to me. Break up. A hibiscus falls next to me. Later in the year, with the monsoon, the garden turned into its favorite green. And Haigra was also relaxed. Do you know why? Her rolling tears could easily be disguised now. As she ventured into the garden, a leaf spoke her heart out in rain. Downpour. The mascara runs down her cheeks. Downpour. The mascara runs down her cheeks. Well, time heals everything. Though the heart was heavy, the smile was lost and a little dull. Yet Haigra was trying hard to regain her energy. Haigra's another leaf shared her hidden restlessness. Tea leaves in boiling water. Tea leaves in boiling water. The unsaid words. She was indeed not well. Yes, she wasn't well, but her imprints on all those leaves assured me about her emerging into a new being. Yes, her poetry recorded her healing process. Thank you.
Ravi Kiran, that's me. Lockdown, spending time together, me, myself, and I. Lockdown, spending time together, me, myself, and I. The first wave happened last year. And I'm not talking about the first wave of the corona or the COVID as we all know it, but I'm talking about the first wave in my life of my haiku journey. I started off my haiku journey less than a year back, and when I did that, I knew three things: 575, 3 lines, and a wow factor, or as we call it, the haiku moment. I did well in the first few months, joined a few Facebook groups, posted my this thing, got lots of likes, including a few of them crossing 100 likes. And then the second wave happened. The second wave outside my door, ding dong. The second wave outside my door, ding dong. This was my first accepted coup for a publication. There have been many more after that, but this was my first, so this will always remain very special to me. And again, when I say the second wave, I'm not talking about the COVID wave that's there, but the second journey or second leg of the haiku journey for me, and this is Gurukulam and Triveni, February, March. I still remember my first class, and what a class it was. I was silent most of it, and this is what I heard. I still remember. No 575, no long sentences, no rhyming, no anthropomorphism, and no double gerunds, and many other no's. And at the end of the class, I said, enough, no haiku for me. I actually wanted to quit, and you won't believe I actually wrote 3 haiku end of the class, which had everything about quitting. I don't know why I didn't quit, but I'm glad I didn't. And even as this continued my haiku journey and I started sinking into it, outside the COVID was raging on. The second wave of the COVID was full on, and there were so many people who died. So many people, friends and relatives passed away. And I started writing a few haiku about death. Here's one of the things I really like. Cold wind, the hearse refuse. Cold wind, the hearse refuse. As all of you will know, the hearse is basically a vehicle used for transporting the dead bodies. So this is about the death that I wrote. And as the coronavirus second wave raged on, outside the seasons changed. Spring came in. You know, spring not only came in outside, but also haiku brought that spring to my inner world. And my inner world, in spite of what was going on all around, was very joyful, was very bright and colorful. Spring in free fall, wisteria. Spring in free fall, wisteria. There are not many regrets I have in life, but one of the regrets is that I wish I had started my haiku journey much earlier. Early 50s is not old age, but when I see youngsters, especially people I know in this group like Tanvi, like Ishan, like Ustad, I really wish I had started my haiku journey much, much earlier. This last haiku of mine is dedicated to all my Gurukulam group members. Each of you have been so wonderful, so let me name you one by one. I'll never forget you. Tanvi, Devoshruti, Baisali, Nina, Teji, Subir, and Joe. And very specially dedicated to Kala and Vandana. Spring is long gone. I have found you now. Spring is long gone. I have found you now. Yes, I'm deeply and hopelessly addicted to haiku. Kala, Vandana, you were responsible. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, I'm Kamrun.
Kamrun, give me a minute.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kamrun. Thanks. At first, thanks to Kala Ramesh ma'am to arrange such a beautiful program for us. And I want to say something about how am I inclined towards this haiku literature. In 2020, when the COVID was booming and had taken the shape of pandemic, and I was staying at home for the reason of lockdown, I was introduced to this literature. This precise short form of poem has a completely different attraction. These poems are very much sophisticated, delicate, and very much image oriented. When I try to write a haiku, I need to be conscious about kire, cut point. In the same way, I need to concentrate on juxtaposition, shift and link, need to draw 2 images at a time, need to use seasonal words. In the same way, in these 7 to 11 words, writers try to say something different that intellectually they try to click some reader's mind and influence the reader of. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Kamran.
Okay. 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 I think that's the real taste of this type of poem. This short brief, I love this haiku very much. When last year I was introduced to Kamrul Hassan and Kala Ramesh ma'am, I see their involvement, their attachment, their enthusiasm about this poem. That things really mesmerized me a lot. And I think that is awesome. And I am being a part of it. So then I think mainly I was a free verse writer. Every day, but haiku helps to heal us. But I think this when 2 or 3 hours we spend for writing, on that time, nothing really comes to our mind. We can fully concentrate on that. And that is really a process to escape from this hard time. And we feel poetry brings some happiness, brings some heal from heaven. And that particular moment heals us and gives us a pure vibe. And that pure vibe helps us to live a healthy, happy life. We know life is so struggling, so strange. Its leaves have so many colors. As a poet, as a creature of this beauty, we always try to be colorful every day. And haiku helps us in a different way. Let's read few of my haiku. Morning dews on daffodils petals, winter shines. Morning dews on daffodils petals, winter shines. Spring light, dandelion sunshine, grasping my eyes. Spring light, dandelion sunshine, grasping my eyes. Gentle June has lost its patience, pandemic booming again. Gentle June has lost its patience, pandemic booming again. Winter night, lonely street, a flower moon walks with me. Winter night, lonely street, a flower moon walks with me. Sometimes beats of music works as an ointment to heal. Sometimes beats of music work as an ointment to heal. I think music really does work. Concrete wall, the shadow of 2 pillows. Concrete wall, the shadow of 2 pillows. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Good evening. Am I audible, Ravi?
Yes, Teji, you can start.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Kala Ramesh, for involving me into this program. It started with creating a poster, and now it ends with creating a presentation and presenting some of my work. I personally believe that poetry is the deepest cry from the soul. So when as a poet we write something, I believe it reaches out to people and we connect. Borders, backgrounds, traumas, races melt, and we all unite in grief. For me personally, poetry is the safest haven. It is cleansing, therapeutic. Poetry allows me to take in pain into my heart and turn it into verses. Since we have a lot of international poets, today I have tried to present something traditional.
Nimish, I explain to you, when they start writing their...
Today I have paired dohas of Kabir and my Haikai creations to create a symphony between 2 forms of poetry. They speak of simple learnings I have taken from life and loss. Ego. कबीरा गर्व न कीजिए, ऊंचा देख आवाज, काल परो भुई लेटना, ऊपर जमसी घास. Says Kabir, don't be so proud and vain looking at your high mansion. Death makes one lie on bare land and grass will go thereon. Surely flower trembles in night breeze, perishes at dawn. What shall I give into but the burden of my karma? Letting go. चलती चक्की देखकर दिया कबीरा रोए, दुई पाटन के बीच में साबित बचा न कोई. Looking at the grinding stones, Kabir laments. In the duel of wheels, nothing stays intact. Morning dew shines on the grass. The moment I live in would soon be gone. Humility giving. बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ, जैसे पेड़ खजूर. बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ, जैसे पेड़ खजूर. पंथी को छाया नहीं, फल लागत अति दूर. It's of no use to be great like a date palm tree, as it neither gives shade to travelers, nor does it allow its fruit to be plucked with ease. Morning ritual. I offer water to the holy basil. Morning ritual. I offer water to the holy basil, giving it all that remains of me. Patience and acceptance. धीरे धीरे रे मना, धीरे सब कुछ होए. धीरे धीरे रे मना, धीरे सब कुछ होए. माली सींचे 100 घड़ा, ऋतु आए फल होए. Slowly, slowly, everything at its own pace happens. The gardener may water with 100 buckets. Fruit arrives only in its season. New moon, the stillness of sea awaits a tide. New moon, the stillness of sea awaits a tide. As it goes with the wind, this cherry petal, so shall I. Thank you.
This is a very special time. We are saying this is coffee break, but we have in our midst a very special haiku poet, Sherry Grant, all the way from New Zealand, and staying up way past midnight, just so that we have a very special moment. Besides being an accomplished haiku poet, Sherry is also an accomplished classical musician. So I'm not sure about you if you're going to reach out to that mug of coffee, but I'm going to hold on because Sherry is going to play for us live classical music for the 10 minutes, which is the duration of a break. Sherry, over to you.
Yeah, I would just, Sherry,
Yes, Kala.
I want to thank you so much for being so generous to offer and to keep awake, because we know you are in New Zealand and it's midnight or maybe past midnight. And thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm going to play four pieces by, actually not strictly classical, but it's not pop either. So something easy listening, I suppose, by a pianist composer called Brian Crane. The first piece is called Wind, and the next one is called Sacred Land. Let me know if there's a problem, just put me down.
Thank you. That is so absolutely wonderful.
Thanks for listening.
And Sherry, it was lovely. Absolutely. I loved your pauses and I loved your clusters and then I loved your space. Lovely. I know the amount of years you have taken to get this perfect, but you've done it. Lovely.
Thank you for asking.
This one is how do we pay tribute to a haiku poet who's also a musician? This one's for you. Sometimes haiku does not need words. Piano music. I just wrote it for you, Shin. I hope you like it.
Thank you, Ravi.
Lovely, Ravi.
Good evening, friends.
Go ahead, Kalpana.
Good evening, friends. Thank you, Kala, for putting this brilliant Haiku for Healing conference, an exclusive evening of sharing and listening to haiku. It is not easy to coordinate and conduct an event that brings in people from different parts of the world. And thank you, Ravi, for being an excellent coordinator. It's indeed a privilege to read out my haiku in the presence of eminent haiku poets and mentors. Thank you for this opportunity. Many thanks to my fellow poets and the lovers of poetry for being here this evening. I'm used to writing free-flowing poetry in English and in Tamil. And when I wanted to try my hands at haiku, I realized it was a different ballgame altogether. I've always dabbled in romanticism, trying to verbalize emotions and using real-world metaphors. Haiku is a poetry form where the poet needs to learn to use his or her editing chisel with precision. With a single-minded focus, one needs to be willing to chisel away parts of the poem that are extraneous, to be frugal with words, yet paint a vivid verbal picture, to be willing to trust the reader's capacity to visualize the unsaid parts. During these tough times that we have all been going through, I started spending time in nature, observing closely the many things for which I've never had the time before. I started to observe myself closely, the emotions that swirled within me and my reactions and responses. As I tried to capture these in the poems that I wrote, I realized that I was transported to a different realm altogether. So it's definitely been a way to feel, to process, and to heal and to progress. Definitely, reading and writing poems and haiku has helped me in healing. When I talk about haiku, I should also talk about Triveni. I've seen nothing like this forum anywhere else in the social media. This is a forum that focuses on haiku and haiku only. Of course, other forms of Japanese poetry like senru, tanka, and haibun are also encouraged. What I wanted to say was how the forum focuses only on poetry, writing poetry, editing poetry, enhancing poetry, reading poetry, all positive forward-moving actions. The constructive feedback that we receive from established haiku poets like Kala, Gautam, and others, who we look up to, how graciously they share these suggestions, helping us get on the right track. I've been writing in Tamil for quite some time now. There is nothing like this there to help budding poets. So 3 cheers to Triveni. Latticed window, across the veranda, shards of sun. Latticed window, across the veranda, shards of sun. Endless waiting for the boomerang, unrequited love. Endless waiting for the boomerang, unrequited love. Morning bloom, baby peeks from behind mom's pallu. Morning bloom, baby peeks from behind mom's pallu.
Kala, we don't have Diana. Diana, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Diana. Please go ahead.
Oh, good. Well, as long as you can hear me. I don't know why you can't see my face, but you can see my front room and the view out of my window. for some reason, and you can see my hand, can't you? So, and you can see my first little book of haiku, which was called Dancing Stones. Dancing Stones, published over 20 years ago now. Haiku within my dance of life as places of poise amid whatever distress may be swirling within. The introduction is headed Haiku and Healing, and this is why. All my life, I have suffered from bouts of anxiety and depression. But since discovering haiku over 30 years ago, I have found it can help me rise above mental distress, and more recently, above physical pain, by focusing on something outside myself, especially a miracle of nature, entering into the being of another creature and grounding the experience in words. Hyben takes this further. I think of Hyben, as the late Ken Jones said, haiku, dancing with prose. I love to enter into a flow of words as a kind of dance, a way of flowing with the universe, and sometimes, through the process of creating the longer form of Hyben, prose, to explore an aspect of my life that is impinged upon my well-being, or maybe to explore whatever I'm going through now. This first piece, Light, was published in The Wind That Blows Through Me, published a few years ago now by the British Haiku Society on the subject of haiku and well-being. Light. I wake early to inner darkness, want to curl back into sleep. Mornings are brighter now, but I preferred them dark, darkness and sleep. I get up, dress, walk out along the road. I want to lie down again soon. I need to focus on a moment never to be repeated. Birdsong, somewhere close. Writing this from memory, a small black insect crawls across the page. I look up, see the bird, hold that fleeting image in my head, my heart. The cloud inside shifts slightly. Later, I sit in sunlight, play with words. My inner sky is clear. High in the tree, an early blackbird singing. Light on the bare bark. And this second piece, Getting Over, was written very, very recently about what I am going through now. Getting over. I need to climb across a stile, a really painful process. Withdrawal from a prescription drug, a substitute in place, but nevertheless, the muscular effect is crippling. And yet, the joy, somewhere within, at the sharpened tip of a pencil long ago, the seed of a yellow inner light was planted. And alongside that, something was spun, which held within a chance to fly. Cowslips. In parallel with the path, yellow butterflies. Thank you very much.
Sandra.
Hello.
Go on, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you, Kala, for inviting me to present at this very, very interesting session. And welcome to all my other co-presenters. It has been an experience up to now, and I'm sure it's going to be great going ahead. I've been writing haiku for quite a while now, and recently more so during the lockdown. So this entire healing process is really something that I believe we've all gone through, and haiku has helped me quite a bit. Initially, we had come to believe that COVID was not meant to touch us. It was an illness that affected other people. And suddenly, everything changed. Our dearly beloved Aunt Ada tested positive. Even before we could digest the shocking news, she was moved to hospital. Her journey from being administered oxygen in a ward to being put on a ventilator in the ICU was very quick. Soon, the worst happened. She died alone as we weren't allowed to visit her. We also had to settle for a cremation and not a burial as she would have wanted. We were devastated, especially myself. I had been very close to her and found it difficult to accept her untimely death. Haiku writing brought some solace. Solemn night vigil. The neighbors' sparring cats break the silence. Solemn night vigil. The neighbors' sparring cats break the silence. On lonely days, her perfumed handkerchief keeps him company. On lonely days, her perfumed handkerchief keeps him company. The screeching sirens of passing ambulances drown the church bells. The screeching sirens of passing ambulances drown the church bells. Waiting for news. This is a highball. Long nights of staying awake, wondering whether her readings on the oximeter were improving, have begun to take a toll on us. We resemble a pack of zombies. We are allowed to call her just once a day. It is a relief even to hear her gasping, as it means she is still alive. A single star in the dark skies, our spirits rise. A single star in the dark skies, our spirits rise. Understandably, the hospital cannot keep us informed of her progress, given the number of patients registered with them. A chill runs down our spines each time the phone rings. The soothing rise and fall of the waves, she counts each breath. The soothing rise and fall of the waves, she counts each breath. The news comes via a terse call. Only one relative is summoned to the hospital as the patient is critical. The writing on the wall is clear. Bad news travels fast. A blind flautist comes to play the last notes. Bad news travels fast. A blind flautist comes to play the last notes. Thank you.
Kala, we do not have Pranati with us, so I'm moving on to Vidya Venkatramani. Pranati, are you there?
No, you can carry on to the next.
Okay. Vidya Oji. Vidya, you need to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kala, for this opportunity. Last year, when the pandemic struck and when there were long days of lockdown, I literally felt that all my plans had gone awry, and I felt that the ground had really shifted beneath my feet. The normally optimistic and upbeat person, an outgoing person that I am, I found myself languishing. I then came across a course of wellness called The Science of Well-Being by Dr. Laurie Santos of Yale University. And in doing this course, I found myself more of my optimistic self. And as the weeks went by, and as I practiced those wellness habits that she had put forth in her course, I found that it was so similar to the Haikai spirit. For isn't it? So we can all relate to gratitude, to a sense of compassion, meditation, and savoring an experience. Isn't that what haiku encompasses? And so, in reading and writing haiku, it has been a kind of lifeline for me, a support during these difficult times. And in writing and reading haiku, I found there were so many things that I had taken for granted, which I could now look forward. Only today I was telling Geetanjali that I'm able to give long time to the children, and we are able to talk to each other in depth over things that we would never have discussed. Probably this is only because that we as a family spend so much time together. I also found myself better ways to connect. Over the Zoom call, I sing with mother, though I have not met her for more than a year now. And then, so haiku has been my way of staying grounded. Come second wave, and a lot of things changed. There were so many familiar faces I had lost. And there were days of long illnesses of friends. I have spent days hovering over my phone, wondering how they are. Those were the days when I have prayed, I have haikued, I have prayed. I don't know where one ended and the other started. I mean, it was all same for me. So I dedicate my poem to all my friends who have undergone a lot of trouble, who have undergone so much of suffering during this second wave. Yeah. Seasons turn. The persistent cry of the tailor bird has been my wake-up call for the last few weeks. Even as I scan the mango tree for a glimpse of the bird, a half a dozen jungle babblers arrive. Their cheery chirps dispense the last bit of night from the boughs. In the midst of this, a pair of bulbuls sit motionless, as if in deep contemplation. Since last year's lockdown, I have begun watching the birds. And I can watch them come and go on the mango tree from this balcony. Late at noon, the woodpeckers would arrive, pecking away at the old branches and sometimes taking a peck at the mangoes. Ah yes, finally the mangoes have arrived. Further up the street, clumps of pink trumpet flowers make an achingly beautiful picture against the blue skies. As if that was not enough, the gossamer flowers have begun dropping down ever so gently, ever so slowly, covering most part of the sleepy street with a breathtaking pink to it. Jasmine fragrance, will he be able to breathe easier today? Jasmine fragrance, will he be able to breathe easier today? Thank you so much.
Suresh Babu.
Good evening, everybody. We call haiku a one-breath poem. And haiku is more about mindfulness practice. It not only makes us rooted to the present, but it also makes us aware of the transient nature of life. The beauty of haiku is not that how it resonates with the deepest emotions of others. It also helps us delve very deeper into our own selves. Special thanks to Kala and Ravi and all the poets that we have all come together to find relief through haiku. So I'd like to read out two haiku of mine here. The first one, it talks about the loneliness that we have seen around us, how people felt lonely during this pandemic times. After the night rain, a lone mushroom popping out from the wet garbage. After the night rain, a lone mushroom popping out from the wet garbage. The second one resonates with everybody. We have seen it everywhere around us. Ashen sky burning on the pyre, a nameless corpse. Ashen sky burning on the pyre, a nameless corpse. Thank you.
Geetanjali Rajan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. And thank you to all the poets who've shared their deep pain, I think, and the healing process with everyone here today. I'm truly grateful. I'd like to read a haibun and then perhaps talk about what happened that got me to write that haibun. It's called The Penultimate Mile. We leave the car in an overcrowded parking lot. The final stretch to the temple is about 1.5 kilometers. We abandon our footwear in the car and start along the narrow path. After many decades, my city-bred feet are soon reminded of the sensations of walking over tiny pieces of gravel and sharp stones. Upslope trek. Upslope trek. Cotton clouds skim past the pilgrims. Reach a signboard with directions to the river. Rough-cut stone steps lead to its sandy bed. 5 months before the monsoon and the water is shallower than the descriptions I have read about the mighty river. We make our way to the edge of the water, fine sand grains on the soles of our feet, and with the weight of an unbaked mud urn heavy in our hands. Dawn breaks. The meandering river now carries your ashes. A pale gold sun breaks past bare branches. Another journey through the sky. Well, I wrote this in much before the COVID era, so to speak. I wrote it in 2019 when I lost my father, and it was a terribly painful time. But how writing this haibun, how it helped me deal with the situation is that with each write that I wrote about the experience, and then I rewrote it, and then I had to edit it, and then I was working with a little word, and in a year I think this haibun was ready. And through the year I was dealing with that sorrow and found that I was in a position to better deal with it. Right. So haiku, haibun, any haikai form, like many of the people here have said before, really roots us to the moment and therefore helps us. Now in 2020, that's last year, it seems so long ago, in the first wave, when the lockdown was upon us for many, many, many months, it was very isolating. And I was fortunate enough to get onto a collaborative project with 3 other poets. So that isolation too was really, something that I could deal with through haibun. And I think this kind of, a writing together is also something that probably helps. I'd like to read another haibun from that series, In Pursuit of. Compendium, noun a collection of concise but detailed information about a particular subject, especially in a book or other publication. That's the definition. There are too many words and too few meanings. Just as there are too many graphs and no accessible analysis, I keep searching. Soon I'm entangled in the mesh of the World Wide Web, moving from page to page, screen to screen. Where did I begin? Where do I want to reach? Or will I just end up there anyway? Ultimately, all roads seem to lead to the same nowhere. It's time to step back, withdraw into myself, inhale some precious calm, and hear my own silences. I close my eyes. Midday heat. The yowl of the calico scatters the pigeons. Midday heat. The yowl of the calico scatters the pigeons. I think this is how haiku really has brought in a lot of calm to each and every one of us. So keep haikuing. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today.
Milan, your camera is off. If you could turn your camera on and also your microphone. Milan Rajkumar. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, now you can start, Milan.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. See, the second wave is also hitting our on the state of Northeast India, Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram, etc., etc., etc. And see, some of my friends, childhood friends are lost, and so many relatives and this and that, I didn't read newspaper nowadays. I do not read newspaper nowadays. I just write haiku. I do not cut my hair at all. That's because I could not go out. I don't want to go out. Meanwhile, it is Triveni, I think, and all those haiku groups that I join, which makes me, which calms me down. So, well, I'm sorry about my voice. Okay, so okay, Ravi, here's my first one. Pandemic, planting a Cape jasmine with mother's ashes. Okay, this is about a friend of mine whose mother has been, cremated by the authority, not by the locality. And all we have to do is just talk to phone and say that I'm sorry about your mother's loss, etc., etc., etc. So he always asks me. I'm a collector of plants. This types of plants, indoor plants, house plants, flowers, etc., etc., etc. So he asked me once for a Cape jasmine. So that's why that's how I wrote this one. Pandemic, planting a Cape jasmine with mother's ashes. Okay. Then suddenly, my sister's just a grandson was born a few weeks back, in the pandemic, in the second wave. So I just wrote this down. Lockdown garden, a dwarf marigold, all of a sudden. Lockdown garden, a dwarf marigold, all of a sudden. Next. Hello. Next, please, Ravi. Okay. Now, a friend of mine has been infected with this second wave Delta variant, whatever they call it. I don't care. We have to stop it somehow. But he asked me. I'm a jazz. This listener. Jazz music listener. So he asked me kindly in WhatsApp. He just asked me from the COVID word, like, just name me a few songs which would encourage me. And I remember one song of Nora Jones, daughter of Ravi Shankar. She's a jazz singer. She got a beautiful song like "Come Away with Me." So that's why I caught it. Okay. I'm sorry about if it is right or wrong. I don't know. I just caught it. A radio plays beside the COVID word. Come away with me. Okay. Next. Here's a grammatical error. This is a type of mistake. The stem should be without an S. Okay, no problem. In a haste, I send it to Ravi, and Ravi must be forgetting about it. Sorry, it's okay, Ravi. So, every morning, whatever they call it, Jinko walk or whatever this Sirinyoko, whatever, I don't know, whatever morning walk has been a practice for me for the last 30 years, and there are lots of fields, paddy fields in Manipur and northeastern India. And I just brought this one. You must be, if you want to see real scarecrows, come to my place. So here it is, social distance. Even the scarecrows stand, not stands, stand. Even the scarecrows stand far from each other. Social distance, even the scarecrows stand far from each other. Then, and I hope that this COVID will be we shall overcome it. So there's a song like, we shall overcome. So with that word inspiring me, I just wrote this one. It's telling you, indeed. News of COVID, still the boy in me whispers. News of COVID, still the boy in me whispers. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for doing all this.
Yeah, I know.
Could I request Kasturi Jadhav to unmute herself and also turn on her camera? Kasturi Jadhav, your camera is not open. Yep, there you go.
Hi. Hi.
Give me a minute, Kasturi. Kasturi Jadhav.
Okay, it should be Jabhav, but I think that's fine. Okay. May I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, firstly, I just wanted to say that thank you, Kala, and thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful to listen to everybody. My heart feels happy, but it also feels a little heavy. And it's been feeling heavy all this year. And there's this little something that I actually wrote, which basically says that You know, a poem is how you meet yourself, which for me happens when I write poetry or when I write haiku. I think, you know, it's like you leave, you know, you leave the troubles behind in some sense. Um, Also, another thing, you know, that I again wrote, which is not really a haiku, but you know, something like, you know, you don't really write a poem, you listen for it. So that's something that's really been happening, where, you know, no matter how heavy, you know, the heart feels, you just you know, see a rose blooming, or you see, you know, you see something which, you know, in nature, or you know, you just see a child smiling, and there's just that moment of joy, and you know, your heart doesn't feel that heavy anymore. So all the poems that I've chosen are basically just these moments that I found in an ordinary day, and during troubled times. And yeah, that's what these poems are. So Ravi, can you show the first one? Traveling headphones, the way the world moves to music. Traveling headphones, the way the world moves to music. Can you go to the second one? Morning chai, a cup of liquid sun. Morning chai, a cup of liquid sun. This is the warmth that I feel in the morning tea. You know, which is like whatever trouble. Tea is something that soothes me. So yes, can you go to the next one? Sparrows, or chirping sparrows, the tiny joys of ordinary mornings. Sparrows, the tiny joys of ordinary mornings. And the one after this, mining silence for my ore of words, which is what I do at times. Mining silence for my ore of words. Thank you so much.
Shobana, could you unmute yourself and start?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today. Kala and Ravi, thank you for putting this together. Last couple of hours, listening to how this pandemic has touched, has invaded every life and impacted us in so many untold ways. It's been a very, very moving experience this evening, and I don't think I'm going to say anything new. I think by now all of us know how much haiku and haikai writing has healed us all. Haiku has always been a very cathartic exercise for me. And if the pandemic taught me one thing, it was to realize that sometimes we can look at the world with different eyes, and maybe it will respond in a manner that is befitting of us. I'd like to recall one incident where a man asks a wise sage, how does a human respond to crisis? How does a human respond to hatred, to violence, to everything? And the sage says, respond like a flower responds when it is crushed, because that's when it gives out the strongest fragrance. And that's what haiku writing does for all of us. It teaches us how, no matter how much we abuse her, nature is there for us if only we care to look at her. So here's my haiku. Segue. On a rare day, she wakes up smiling. Limbs sing and meld into synchrony. She's like the little girl in Dostoevsky's dream, tugging all of life's closely held secrets to come asunder. Darkened path, a tree erupts, with fireflies. Darkened path, a tree erupts with fireflies. She leans in and listens to the coals sing. Gulmohar petals fall in silence. She lends her cheeks to the stroke of the morning wind and lets the sun wash over her. Sometimes she sees a star refusing to fade into the light. Panic attack, even the clock, a time bomb. Panic attack, even the clock, a time bomb. Thank you all for having me here, and may we emerge from this stronger and better.
Karen, could you unmute yourself and start?
There we go. What?
You're good, Karen. Go ahead. No, you mute. Yeah, good.
Am I still unmuted? It's slow to respond. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm Karen Harvey and I'm from Pwllheli in North Wales, UK. I will tell you a little bit about me now. First of all, thank you, Carla, for making this possible, and Ravi for being a technician and managing it all nicely. I'm going to tell you a little about my journey into writing. I came to writing from my own need in my 40s. Although I am happily married and I had a thriving family, from time to time I experienced episodes of anxiety, depression and despair. Later on, this was diagnosed as complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I've also lived with chronic pain for the last 3 decades. During one episode, I was sent to a counsellor and my worries seemed to go round and round in circles. But one day I came home and picked up a pen and started writing. Suddenly there was a way to capture those thoughts and still my restless mind. I found poetry, and then later on I found haiku. I found companionship in the Writing for Wellbeing community here in the UK, and I found companionship online, and I found Triveni before lockdown. In 2009, I discovered a residential Writing for Wellbeing course, and this really opened my eyes to the curative power of poetry. And I started a writing course in my a group in my own community. I live right on the beach, so I write a lot of poetry about the sea. I find it very inspiring. But I'm going to just read you some poetry about my journey for wellness. And I won't dwell too much on my early experience, but I would like to read these poems to you. Okay. On childhood and adolescence, keeper of secrets, rag doll. On finding love. At 18, finding the love of my life, I stuff the past down. Happily married, but the black dog pursues me behind the smile. You can't slam a revolving door, recurring nightmares. On finding journal therapy. Unraveling those recurring dreams in therapy. Unpicking the family story, one lie at a time. Learning to love myself as much as I love others, an ongoing process. Slowly rebuilding my fractured self-esteem, I flex my wings. Reclaiming myself from her raptor claws. See how I fly. And the next poem is just to celebrate this event, celebrating this holding space for our stories, this community built with love. Thank you.
Samir Satab.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I would start by thanking Kala ma'am for reaching out to offer this precious gift of an event. And thanks to Ravi Kiran for managing this event so beautifully. Thank you, everyone who is present here today for sharing your profound and heartfelt poems. And thanks to all the cheerleaders who have been very generous their comments in the chat section. I believe every poem, whichever form, is a chance to expand our ability to empathize. So I will start with my nostrils gather the mogra, hospital discharge. My nostrils gather the mogra, hospital discharge. Father kisses his daughter's crown. Father kisses his daughter's crown. Chemotherapy. Smoke rising from my skin. Ganga Ghat. Smoke rising from my skin. Ganga Ghat. Mother smiles, touching my forehead. Farewell, fever. Mother smiles, touching my forehead. Farewell, fever. Thank you, everyone.
So, first, I would like to thank Kala for giving me this opportunity to be part of this event. It's a wonderful event to be part of. Actually. Thank you, and thank you, Kiran, for organizing this whole thing. You have made it again. I would also like to, I was very happy to see Mr. Scott Masson with us this evening. Really happy to see him here. I have been in touch with him ever since he became one of the editors of the list. So thank you, sir, for being with us this evening. So this pandemic and the lockdown gave me an opportunity to spend a lot of time outdoors with nature. And it also gave me time to explore one of my interests, which is wildlife photography. So at the golden hours, when I walked around on the campus, I worked in a school, and when the children went home, the campus was empty, and we had a lot of time actually, because you have an online session. After that, you were free to do things. So I went around taking pictures of many birds. I came across many birds, starting from the peacock and then the white-eyed, the white-browed buzzard, the barn owl, the ibis, and the pelicans. So many birds, the monitor lizard. So all these animals and birds were all around, and it was nice to be in the company of these life forms. I was very happy, and initially they were a little hesitant when I walked. When they saw me, they started moving fast. But then slowly, after many days, I found them not just moving away. They just stayed, and I would just stand and watch an owl. I would watch into its eyes. The owl would watch me, and there was some contact which happened with other life forms which are on this planet Earth. So it was very nice. So later, from the city, from the village, I had to move to the town or to the city where I had another reality waiting for me. And I know I don't want to talk about that reality. I think you're familiar with it. And some of my haiku which I wrote, which I'm going to share today, are based on those realities. So, under quarantine, I take care of a small potted plant. Under quarantine, I take care of a small potted plant. So, going back to the village where I actually live, so when I walked around, I started feeling, why did I mean, there was a certain trust which I could feel with the animals. No, they seemed to kind of accept my presence, and something seemed to have changed. So they were, when I walked by a bird on a branch, usually the tendency of a bird is to just take off and fly. For some reason, the bird would stand, they just stay there and be there, and I would also stand and look at the bird for a while. So this change was something which I felt very happy and very happy to notice, to feel that these birds and animals are not really worried now. They can trust me, and they can be in the company of in my company. So this is a feeling which I really cherished, actually, because I had a lot of time to be under the open sky and watch these animals and birds and small animals. I'm not talking about a huge animal. These small animals like a monitor lizard or a hare or a jackal or the peacock. So these animals gave me this sense of wonder. And there were moments when I didn't feel like writing anything. I just stood and watched them, observed them, and there was this kind of a communion which I had with these animals. So this is a change which I noticed during this pandemic. And I also saw that it also gave the earth, Mother Earth, some time to heal itself. It has been going through a lot of difficult time due to human beings, because a lot of difficulties because of us, actually, as human beings. We have taken it for granted, and we have really caused a lot of injuries to the planet Earth in various parts of the world. So this again, I thought, so it gave some time for the Earth to come back to some sort of a certain balance which was lost earlier. So that was also another thing which I felt. Lockdown, a red paper kite makes me linger on the terrace. So nowhere to go, so you stay indoors. So lockdown, a red paper kite makes me linger on the terrace. Yeah, so this is another reality which I had to face, and oxygen, need for oxygen, need to breathe, need for oxygen. Outside the COVID ward, with masks on, we talk about oxygen level. Outside the COVID ward, with masks on, we talk about oxygen level. I would like to thank all the poets for staying here throughout the event, listening to every one of us. Thank you all, thank you.
Kala Ramesh, if you could unmute yourself and speak.
Oh, well, it has been a very, very most touching experience listening to each one of you. It has not been easy to get into the skin, to feel what you have felt. But yes, we've had a very tough time. And quickly, let me go on to what I wanted to say. Yes, Ravi? The voice. Advances he makes are measured. Even a lioness doesn't move half as stealthily towards her prey. Bit by bit, he accustoms the young girl, to a few touches here and there, so gradually that she doesn't see anything amiss. A lily plucked, the deeper murmurings go unheard. A lily plucked, the deeper murmurings go unheard. The trauma, I just want to say a few lines about this, Haibun, and how it came about. The trauma experienced during any kind of abuse has lifetime ramifications. You'd all agree. But during the COVID, a friend of mine has been studying a lot on the ascending child sexual abuse, CSA, it's called in India, the statistics in India during COVID-19 lockdown. And it reveals a dark reality and alarming mental health concerns. You can imagine a family locked up and the child not having any place or not being able to even tell anything that is happening to her. In fact, this person here who works in the CSA said that they hear a child ring up and the child doesn't know how to explain what is happening to her. Rape has always been a concern. But can you imagine, we are talking about being locked up in COVID. Can you imagine a child being locked up with an emotion that he's not even able to voice to anybody? The advances he makes are measured. Even a lioness doesn't move half as stealthily towards her prey. Bit by bit, he accustoms the young girl to a few touches here and there, so gradually that she doesn't see anything amiss. A lily plucked, the deeper murmurings go unheard. The second one. In plain sight, ours was an all-girls day school. I'm not here to complain. School was fun and we bonded well, which is the most important thing. I liked all my teachers, although I vividly remember my history teacher for her oft repeated line. When leaving our class, she would put her finger on her lips and say sternly, "Girls are not to be heard." People might say that society's touchstones have changed since then. Are girls not to be seen either? Acid throw, her scarred face speaks of his jealousy. Acid throw, her scarred face speaks of his jealousy. I wrote this second Haibun after I was a speaker at the Hyderabad Lit Festival 2 years back before COVID struck. And it was about acid throw and a young girl's experience. She was on stage and she had her hair completely covering up half her face, a young girl. And this side was perfectly beautiful. And she spoke about the acid throw that happened in her life and how it came about. And then she said, this is what happened. And she lifted her hair and her face was completely charred, undistinguishable on one side, on that side that she revealed. It was a hair that covered. But did it cover her torture? Every time when I see my gray hair in the mornings, I say, oh, one more gray hair. Can you imagine seeing a scarred face in the mirror? It doesn't tell anything but the truth. And this is what I wanted to share with you all. Yes, Ravi. Not now, Ravi. Not now. We will now go on to Scott Mason, maybe to tell us something about what he felt about today's performance, about the Indians, and how we all got together to do something like this, and what he feels about the whole event, and what anything else that he has to share. Thanks, Scott. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Kala, you're one of my haiku heroes. Ravi, I love your passion, and if it's any consolation, I began my haiku journey at about the same time you have, and so it's humbling to think that Basho's life was over at the age that our haiku journey began. So there's still time and there's still hope. This has been inspirational. What a gift haiku is. And there's nothing wrong with your monitor, your screen, by the way. What you're seeing is a glow of gratitude from me for everything that's been shared. The readings really move me beyond words. A few reactions, and everything I'll have to say has been probably said before and better in this session. But maybe this will kind of wrap it up in a way. One of the things that struck me in Kala's opening comments, talking about that broken instrument and the kintsugi, connection. What came to mind for me was part of a poem that was written by Jane Hirschfield. The name may be familiar to some of you. And the poem is titled "For What Binds Us." And she makes reference to something called proud flesh. And that's when a horse sustains or gets a scar, the area where the scar takes place, it grows over, it's a darker area, and it becomes stronger. And that came to mind with not only with Kala's story, but also with what's been shared here, because I'm so full of gratitude, not just for this, not just for haiku, and not just for this community, but for the courage that I've seen and felt on display here. And maybe we, through haiku, can develop some proud flesh in this difficult period. A few other thoughts. Haiku is, I think that's really important, that, I mean, haiku is a practice. I don't think anyone listening to this thinks otherwise. And I would only emphasize that reading or listening, as we've, most of us have been doing here, is as important as writing. I mean, I think it's more important, frankly. And I may be a little bit of an outlier in this, but I'm one of the few probably English language haiku poets who has been writing for this long who hasn't come out with his own book of poetry. And and there's a reason for that, because I am honestly more interested in what other people have to say than what I have to say. At the end of the Wonder Code, there is a section of my poems, but that's only there because my wife insisted that I have those there. So anyway, so haiku is a practice, and I've long felt that it is fundamentally therapeutic. It's a word that was used a couple of times in this session, in addition to healing. And I think that there are a few reasons, or at least a couple of reasons for that. One is that I see haiku more a poetry of discovery than pure creation. And so I think that's an important distinction, because a lot of people in the creative arts like to think of themselves as creative, and there is creativity involved. But I think a bigger part of it with haiku is discovery. And related to that is, I believe that one of the things that's distinguishes the best haiku and the haiku form itself is that it's outer directed. Diana Webb made a reference to this. It's focused on what's outside of us, at least initially. And in focusing outside of us, we come to realize, I think, better that we're not alone. We're not in this alone. Anna mentioned earlier the wonderful Zen saying, I wrote it down here: when the self retreats, the 10,000 things emerge. So if you can find a way outside of yourself initially, then you can become aware of everything else. And then that leads to what I think haiku is unparalleled in allowing us to do, which is to connect with our environment, connect with our fellow poets and humans, and ultimately connect with ourselves. It reinforces that not only are we not alone, but we're part of something. We belong. And so I think that's, again, what a wonderful gift. I'd just like to read a short passage from this was from the last the last chapter in the Wonder Code, which is titled "Only Connect." Haiku offer us not only the product, but also, far more significantly, the process of a holistic practice. The usual two-part fragment phrase structure of each haiku challenges each reader to find and make a connection between those very two components. In just this way, an engaged reader supplies the thread that will stitch the poem and give it fresh life. In return, this practice rewards and vivifies the reader. Spending time with haiku cannot help but activate a greater sense of participation and ultimately a greater actual engagement in the world around us. Just those reflections on what we've heard. I will share three of my own poems to close, which I think speak to the spirit of what I just mentioned, of discovery and connection, and the gratitude that invariably results from those. The first one is a one-liner. What more do I need, starlings loop. What more do I need? Starling's loop. The second one, the title of my principal book, well, my second book was Gratitude in the Time of COVID-19, which I suppose is also very topical here. But my first book was called The Wonder Code, Discover the Way of Haiku and See the World with New Eyes. And I think that this one speaks especially to the notion of wonder. Starry night, the lifeguards stand tilted back. Starry night, the lifeguard stand tilted back. And then my third and last poem that I'll share with you is actually the last poem in the section of haiku at the back of the Wonder Code. And it's sort of an Ars Poetica, and speaks to my late arrival at this wonderful gift. Inchworm, how long it took to return to wonder. Inchworm, how long it took to return to wonder. We all get different things from haiku, and it strikes me that my discovery of haiku and how it vivified my life. One of our speakers said, if it wasn't for haiku, I wouldn't have made it. Oh man, I mean that's so powerful, and I might have made it otherwise, but without question, my life is so much better for haiku. And as I was starting to say, we come at this from different places. When I talk about outer directed and then connection, it strikes me, and this was discussed in our first breakout session, most of you are from the Indian culture, and in Eastern culture generally, there is a recognition that everything is connected. And so haiku is a wonderful affirmation or a reminder of that. I come from the West, and one of our challenges is that we don't have that foundational belief. And so the connectivity of everything, and that really we can arrive at through haiku, strikes me as not a reminder, but a revelation. and this probably is what has so energized me. And but I'm grateful not only again for haiku and haikai related genres, which operate in much the same fashion, but also for the community that they brought me into. And this wonderful session is just an example of that. So I thank you for this, and blessings to you all.
Scott, thanks a lot. 100 namaskarams to you for having immediately said that you'll join us and that you'll talk at the end, which was very reassuring for us, because whatever said and done, we need those pats on our back. And here you are, an authority, someone we look up to, someone we admire your poetry and your editorship. And you are coming and saying that, yes, your poems are good. It's a validation, and I think it is very necessary, and thank you so much.
Thank you, and you poets are more than good, and yes. I'm honored and flattered to have been welcomed. So thank you all. The thanks
Thank
go to
you.
you.
And I want to, of course, thank all the other poets who came from all parts of the world, who stayed on in different times, especially the Australians. I see 2 or 3 still here. It must be midnight for you or past midnight. Thanks a lot. My deepest thanks to Sherry Grant for that beautiful piece of music that she played for us. Thanks, Sherry. It was just organized 1 hour before we met. And she agreed immediately. And she said, Kala, I will keep awake and I will do it. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I now come to thank Ravi Kiran, who has been working for the last 20 days. Almost every day we talk and how we have to go about it. And Ravi, thank you so much. You made the whole thing seamless, except for that small patch when we had the breakup rooms. But then I think we have learned it and we should be better next time. Rohan for recording the event along with Kiran. Thanks, Tejinder, for that beautiful poster you did for us. What a beautiful poster that was. It set the mood for today's event. Thank you. And to all the Indian poets and to all the readers, thanks a lot. Your poetry was it was deep and it touched all of us. Thank you. And our cheerleaders, wow, the comments I kept reading and the amount of appreciation you had for everyone and the words you picked out, the lines you picked out, the poem you picked out, amazing. Thank you so much. I have a quote which has been in my mind for the last nearly 1 year now. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Banksy said it. Who is Banksy? What we know about the anonymous graffiti artist, what do we know about him? Banksy's name and identity remain unconfirmed and a subject of speculation. Active since the 1990s, his satirical street art and subversive epigrams combine dark humor with graffiti. People say he maintains his anonymity, but they get to know about his graffiti only when he tweets about them in the social media. Strangely, his public installations are regularly resold, often even by removing the wall that they were painted on. That is Banksy for you. I will leave you pondering over his observation. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Banksy. And I'm sure that this is what we try to do in this 2-hour recitation. Thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot. Yes, did my thing get cut off or was it okay?
It's very fine, Kala.
Yes, we now open the floor to all of you who were still remaining with us. Please, with your comments, your feedback, and your responses. I know you've given a lot in your chat, but still for the last high. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kala. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Master Z.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ravi sir. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Kala.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
It
so
was
much. Yeah.
refreshing.
Thank you so much.
And thanks, Scott, for being here with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Please.
Everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks to all. Thanks to